Hello again and welcome to our latest video report. Dion Zakuski, Branch Manager and Portfolio Manager here at Scotia Wealth, back with you again, and there's certainly a lot to cover today. First, I wanted to share a quick story. As you may know, my family is originally from the Ukraine. Most of our family was from the southernmost region, and in the early 1900s, that part of Europe had the borders changing quite frequently. Over time, the Austrian Empire eventually took over where our family was from, and great-grandfather Zakuski was conscripted into the Austrian army. Having learned a trade as a blacksmith, he made the difficult decision to defect and began a long journey that took him through Belgium, onto a boat that eventually landed in Halifax, before settling here in God's country of Alberta in 1912. He arrived in this country with the clothes on his back and $33 in his pocket. So with the recent unprovoked attack on Ukraine by Russia, this is certainly hard to swallow and accept. We were surprised that Putin actually carried out this cowardly act, and our thoughts are with those that are currently defending the homeland. Of course, the other thing that's hard to swallow is the great economic uncertainty and market disruption that has resulted, and we'll discuss this next. So as we know, on February 24th, Russia invaded the Ukraine. Investment markets and commodity markets were disrupted, and we've seen huge swings in both directions, sometimes on a daily basis. Governments around the world have condemned the actions that have been taken and have placed major economic sanctions on Russia in hopes to cripple its trade and come to a peaceful resolution of the conflict. With the conflict ongoing, one of the major initiatives that has been placed on Russia is their access to what's called the SWIFT system. Now, SWIFT is an acronym that stands for the Society for Worldwide Interbank Financial Communication. Try saying that fast 5 times. It's really a payment and transaction system that comprises of 11,000 banks across 200 different countries. Trillions of dollars in cross-border transactions go through the SWIFT system regularly. So cutting off this access will cause a disruption to the Russian economy for sure. But it's also important to understand the reasons behind the invasion that is causing all this market disruption. It's much more than just a power and land grab. The first reason is geopolitical. Following the Second World War and after the Cold War ended, a group called the North American Treaty Organization was formed, also known as NATO. This included the US and Canada, along with many Western European countries. Their initial goal was to have an organized group to face off against the Soviet Union and its partners to basically help limit any hostile expansion of territory. Over a number of decades, NATO has continued to expand, and it now even includes former Soviet republics such as Bulgaria, Lithuania, and Estonia, to name a few. When a pro-Western government was formed in the Ukraine in 2014, they also then began considering joining NATO. Now, this would bring it right to Russia's doorstep, which is obviously a major concern for them, and we'll take a quick look at a map here. So what we're showing is NATO's expansion since 1997. The original countries are in purple, and the newly joined countries since then are more in orange. As we can see, the borders of NATO are moving definitely eastward towards Russia. Now, if Ukraine joined, that would be right next door to Russia, which is obviously a concern for them. The other main reason to try to invade Ukraine is more of an economic one. The southern area that used to belong to Ukraine, called the Crimea, was annexed, which is a nice way of saying invaded and taken over, by Russia in 2014, shortly after Ukraine's pro-Western government was elected. Now, not only did this give Russia military strategic access for its navy to operate in the Black Sea, but also gave access to the billions of cubic meters of natural gas that exist both on and offshore in that area. This helps Russia to ensure their dominance of providing approximately 40% of Europe's total natural gas needs. The mainland of Ukraine also holds vast reserves in more natural gas, along with oil, coal, iron ore, and nickel. Okay, now that we've had our quick history and geopolitical lesson, getting back to investing, what should we be doing? Zooming out a bit, we know that markets had a rocky start to 2022 with concerns around interest rates, inflation, and now this geopolitical conflict is compounding matters a little bit further. However, if history is any type of guide, we know that the investment world reacts negatively to uncertainty in the short term, but typically recovers quickly and posts gains afterwards. Typically, markets can drop and will look to break even after about a 1-month period, with an average drawdown being around that 6% mark. Since the start of the year, many indexes have actually held up relatively well, as we'll show you here. With the large advance in commodity prices, especially oil, that has helped to prop up the TSX index, which is roughly about break even. The much larger US S&P 500 is off about 8% to start the year. Europe is expectedly worse. And in case you were wondering about the Russian stock market, well, it's currently down about 70 to 80%. Now, with all of this as a backdrop, during times like these, as investors, we basically have 3 options. One is to look to place major sells and help protect capital. Option 2 is the opposite, to lean in and make some buys at these low prices. Option 3 is to simply monitor closely, making small adjustments and focusing on what's needed for the long-term plan. Now, I may have given the answer away already, but in 20 years of advising, I can tell you that placing major sells will probably cause more long-term harm than good. On the flip side, we're still in an extremely fast-changing investment climate right now, so placing large amount of buys will probably add more risk than is needed. The right move is to believe in the long-term plan and hold high-quality investments. We still can and will make small adjustments as needed to help navigate through this, with always trying to maintain a focus on risk control. Our Zook Group models have not been perfect, but have actually held up very well. We currently have no direct Russian exposure, and in fact, very little to Europe overall. We believe that this conflict will get resolved one way or another, and when it does, growth should come back to focus and get things on track. As economies come out of COVID lockdowns, company earnings are still expected to be quite robust. So in closing, staying invested will help your long-term returns. However, keep in mind volatility is still out there. If you have questions, please contact us anytime. It's our job to help. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.